Hello and welcome to today's Connection Compass podcast episode. Today is a solo episode. I'm your host, Andrea Louise Evans. I'll be sharing about what I've been up to, what I've been creating, and what I've been questioning, and what's been shifting beneath the surface. I reflect on my recent conversation with Marina Lorenzato around dating, self-worth, and relationships, and how the episode stayed with me for longer than I expected. It opened up some deeper thoughts around emotional protection, vulnerability, and what it actually means to feel safe with a partner or potential partner. I also talk about revisiting a novel that I wrote back in 2017 and how reconnecting with that version of myself reminded me that sometimes we're quietly building things years before we're ready to bring them to life. And finally, I explore something that's been on my mind lately. In a world that's becoming more automated and AI-driven, what does it really mean to stay human, especially when it comes to connection, dating, and relationships? Hello, it's Andrea here, and I'm here doing a solo episode today on the Connection Compass podcast. It's been a few weeks since I did a solo episode, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been up to recently and also a reflection on the episode that I did with Marina Lorenzato about the dating, the relationships, and self worth. What have I been up to then? So, I'm still doing the TikTok challenge. I'm on day 73 out of 100 days today. And it's really surprised me that I have enjoyed that. The whole purpose of doing that challenge was for me to prove to myself that I could just do a video and talk about the work around connection and the podcasting and all the different elements to it with ease. And I have done that and I've really enjoyed it. And I cannot believe that I've turned up every day for 73 days. But it's good, and I've had some really nice engagement on there as well, and I will probably continue going forward to that. I think last time I did a solo episode as well, I talked about picking up an old manuscript that I wrote in 2017 for a novel, and I have done. Last week, I went to take my car for its MOT, and I sat down with a coffee in a cafe and just worked through some of the chapters, and I was honestly blown away by what I had written, and I think that experience has really given me confidence in myself as that visionary, that often I am working 9, 10 years ahead of myself, and it kind of lets me off the hook a little bit. So the lesson I'm taking away from that is if I have an idea, just sit on it for 9 years and allow it to grow on its own. But one of the things I've been doing, once I read through the chapters, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And this week, I'm on leave and I've been working through the characters and getting to understand them a little bit better, and even to the point of the childhood and why they behave in the way that they do. And it's been fun getting to know them, and I feel really excited about that. So I think probably by the time I hit my birthday in June, I probably would have submitted those chapters somewhere for sure. And then the podcast itself obviously had focus on the podcast. And so it's really starting to establish itself, the podcast. It's performing above average globally for a new indie podcast, and definitely showing signs of long-term progress. And I've actually felt a little bit nervous about it and thinking I can't do it. I was re-listening to one of the episodes. It was with Ashley Mondor, the last time we did an episode, and the editing wasn't right. Sometimes the editing tool, if I've not noticed that it needs updating or my computer needs updating, it doesn't always save the edits. And so there was a pause before we actually had the intro, and then there was a pause. It didn't go straight into the actual episode. And I was like, no, I can't do this. But obviously I can. It's just a blip in. But the editing isn't perfect anyway. At some point, there will be, I'm sure, where I want to hand over the editing to somebody else. But for now, it's just me in the little bedroom of a house, just editing and recording and doing all the pre-recording chats and editing the episodes and putting them together. So we're definitely heading towards, we're 73 episodes in now, so working towards that 100th episode. The second birthday of the podcast will happen first, and then the 100th episode a little bit later on. So that's around October, November time, if I continue the way how I have been doing and putting an episode out each week. So yeah, exciting stuff. I read an article on podcasting on Pod News in April last month, and it's been found that normal human-made new podcasts are now in a minority, and that a lot of them now are actually AI-generated podcasts, which is a bit shocking really, isn't it? Because for me, podcasting is all about human interactions and experience and relationships and having conversations. And apparently there's a way of telling these podcasts that are AI generated. Often the phrasing feels generic, the ideas don't quite land, they can feel quite bland. Sometimes the voice can glitch or break. I mean, I think that comes from my podcast. Sometimes my voice can sound glitchy, but in the AI world, that's how to tell. And so it says that about 44.6% of new shows in the last 24 hours were likely to be legitimate, with 45.7% of them potentially produced by AI. That's huge. That's massive. And, in this technological AI generated world, I think it's really important for us to continue to emphasize the human connection. It's why I'm here. It's why I put together the work on connection. The other thing I want to talk about today is the podcast episode that I did with Marina Lorenzato, the episode where we covered dating, relationships, self-worth, and the in-between. And my intention initially was to do a reflection after that episode, but actually it put me in quite a reflective state. And obviously I got a little bit emotional in the episode, but I think it was the realization of the heaviness that I was still carrying around those dating experiences. And it really took some time for me to come out of that space. So when I stepped back from those, I really felt that there was a need to protect myself from her. And sometimes, as Marina was saying, we can overprotect ourselves. Overprotection can get out of hand. And that's why inner reflection is so important, and why it's important to know yourself and to give yourself the space and time you need so that you can listen to yourself. So you can ask yourself, why am I saying no to this person if you're saying no? Or why am I saying yes to this person? Is it because there are lots of red flags and I just don't want to go there, or there's lots of red flags and it's really exciting me and I want to take it on as a challenge? Or, is it because of something deeper that we're saying no because in the situation where you're saying no to somebody? Is it because you feel fear? And is it actually not a fear of the person, but a fear that staying still in a moment and being vulnerable, letting your guard down, doesn't feel safe? And if so, then you can go and inquire, well, is it the person that makes me feel unsafe? Or is it an overburdened nervous system? Is it the nervous system reaction telling me that it feels unsafe when actually it's okay? And then equally, if you're saying yes to a person and those red flags are there and you're really excited, and or is there a fear there that you're saying yes because you might not meet anybody else? Equally, if you're saying yes, it might be fine, it might be happy, you might feel really good, but that's why we need that discernment. That's why we need time and space to work things out. And going on 7 dates per month, I honestly can't believe that people do that, but obviously Marina said that they do. They line up 7 dates a month. Will only fuel that overburdened nervous system, because there's no space and time to sit and think and feel about what you're experiencing before you move on to somebody else. It's almost like a numbing out, really, not allowing that time and space to feel. I did a quick search actually on research around dating apps, and it shows that there is a high usage still, but since 2024 there has been a decrease in engagement due to things like fatigue and burnout. And there's also this link to low self-esteem, body image, anxiety, and choice overload as well. And then in a Forbes health survey, around 78% of the users reported burnout, and that excessive swiping, which I've never done, by the way, correlates with poor mental health. Safety was also reported as an issue, particularly with women under 50, reporting and receiving unsolicited explicit content, persistent unwanted contacts or threat. And I also, preparing for this episode, obviously I go and look at content and see what's out there. But there was someone saying that they joined a dating app where the female has full control over the conversation. And it really struck me. I thought, well, why do you need to control the situation at the beginning of what could be a potential relationship? We often try and control things the environment when something doesn't feel safe. So if it doesn't feel safe, rather than bring control into a relationship at the beginning, don't do it, or learn to give yourself some time and space to develop a strong sense of self-day within yourself first. And none of the things that I've mentioned so far in this episode lend itself particularly well to a foundation of safety that is needed to build a relationship. It's unfair. It isn't just unfair for women, but unfair for men too. And the consequences of all of this are people are not engaging in relationships, or they're not having children because the right relationship that feels safe and secure to bring a child into the world just isn't there. And I think this is where I've come to focus on this topic. I'm not really a type of person that wants to talk about things in my life online, but I felt particularly with the dating experiences, having those experiences 14, 15 years ago, where I could see the manosphere culture, albeit a very subtle, I could just see, I remember just thinking, if this continues in a few years, we're going to be in a real horrible mess. And look where we are. It's just that I didn't have a solution for it. Whereas I've come away and I've built a body of work around connection, and we'll be moving towards starting a movement of making our interactions more human in life. But where it really started to I suppose, get on my nerves or agitate me a little bit, feeling the need to speak about it, was when you hear news reports and other podcasters, and they talk about women choosing not to have children. And some women have chosen not to have children, but sometimes we didn't get to choose. And nobody seems to be really interested in why. And I can definitely see why a woman would choose not to have children when the relationship that's safe and stable, that foundation, is not there. Why would you want to bring a child into the world if that's not present for you? Before I put the episode, I wanted to think more about the episode Marina. I wanted to watch The Manosphere again, and also the Netflix series Adolescence. I think both those shows we can learn from. We can apply both of them to modern day living. Both deal with topics that amplify misogyny, but I think that's quite a reductionist view and approach to the content, something we often see in society when something is emotionally and politically charged content. But I feel that there's so much more going on here, that the truth is actually more layered and complex. Both shows show confused, hurt individuals who have grown up with adult content online. Particularly in adolescence, there is scenes of female violence, bullying. There's lack of responsibility, lack of duty of care, school culture, teenage culture, boundaries, what is acceptable and what isn't. There's grief, there's trauma. And the reason I'm talking about this is because what is happening in our relationships will be playing out in other areas of our life. And sometimes we do have to look at what is going on around us and what has gone on in the past to find resolution and solution into what we're experiencing, so that we can create better experiences, and not just for men, but for women as well. And that isn't just a man's responsibility or a woman's responsibility, it's actually all of our responsibilities. My take on all of this is that as great as technology and the online world is, it can never replace or match human connection. The human soul, the human spirit craves something more, something deeper. Human connection and relationships cannot always be controlled or curated. Sometimes we find that they're irrational and don't make sense to us, but still bring the love we desire. And perhaps there's a thought that the dating apps actually fuel our fear that love may never happen to us at all, rather than having trust and faith in the apps, that we actually have trust and faith that sometimes love just finds its way without control or creation. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Connection Compass podcast. If you think this episode will help somebody else, please leave a review. And remember to keep talking, keep connection for a more interconnected world. See you next time.